And me and my Amazon Kindle Fire. Hold it back here so you can kind of see the size. Continuing to read. If I can get my hair out of the way. Molasses Moon. And I'll turn it and set it up on. I'm not sure if this is not very easy to show. So I'm opening. And then you open these two little tabs in the front. Flip open the. Oops. I have a hard time getting this open, showing it at the same time. It's easy if you aren't trying to show it. Okay. So I flip the bottom little tabs out, and then you just fold the back, put it forward, and then you have it on a little stand to put on the table and read from. So now we're ready to continue. I had been reading on the previous video that recorded yesterday. Today is, what is today? Well, because I have a calendar behind me. Oh, it's Sunday, January 29th. Okay. Now if I should start this thing over or keep going. Yeah, I think I'll keep going. Gotta have life and things every now and then. And all the squirming and futzing with it. I had been reading the part about a article in the Canon City Daily Record, the local newspaper, that talked about me appearing in January of 1988. So I think I'll start there and reread actually a paragraph just to connect to the thought pattern. So the article in the Daily Record appearing in January of 1988 and covering 4 by 6 inches of space, including my photo, began. Linda Shelnutt of Rockville loves writing so much that she once lost her business and her home, was deeply in debt, and ended up living in a cramped one-room apartment, surviving for weeks on mostly potato chips and cheese, so she could write her first novel. And this is quoting me. It's an obsession if you have something to write. It's like having to write is too painful not to go ahead and do it. Though she now lives in a comfortable home with her husband Tom and their cat and dog, she still rises at about 7:30 a.m. each morning, makes a pot of coffee, and sits down at her computer and works straight through the day, sometimes without a break, until 4 p.m. when her husband comes home. And that's the end of the quote from the article. The article, as it stated, was published in 1988. We actually got married and moved into our home in 1986. At that time, in 88, I was working actually in what is now our bedroom. I've made different uses and rearrangements of the different rooms in our house. So that was before the attic phase in this book, and that was taking place in 94. I'm still doing it. We're back to 94 now. And I started in January of 1985, as you know from chapter 1. Don't you think it's about time? I had books selling in every Walden's and B. Dalton's, as well as in the book corral. Don't you think I've paid my dues and adequately developed my skill, gotten my shit together? Don't I have something worth saying? Isn't it my turn yet? Can individuals still approach conglomerates? Or is the blob factor too strong? I was almost going to slip and read, or is the holy blob factor too strong? I might have to think about doing an edit to add that. Tom came up to my office and sat in my grandma's rocking chair, which is stuffed into a corner by the famous stairwell. He asked how I was doing, hiding in my rat's nest. It does look like one, but it's clean. He said he was going to ask if I wanted to go to the auction in Canon City, but it looked like I was hard at it. I am, but it's hard to resist going for a drive with Tom and Tara. So we took off. On the way, we stopped by the post office. In box 99, there was a response. It was from the literary agent I had queried 2 months ago, January 28, 1994. I'll merge a copy of my original query for you to read before I quote the text that was typed to me in his nice professional letterhead. Oops, I have to merge the query next chapter. This one's spent. Chapter 18. The Wide Commercial Market. As I said, the letter I'm going to quote below is a response. Excuse me for a minute here. I'm going to take a sip of my water jug. I drink water all day long. Nice water, tastes good. That's now, of course. Oh, and today, interesting, today's January 29th, 2012, Sunday. As I said, the letter I'm going to quote below is a response to my January 28th query. But before I merge the query for you to read or quote the response, I should explain the reasoning behind the original query. You know, put the horse in front of the cart, like you're supposed to. Since the queried agent, Gerard McCauley, had provided his birth data in Herman's guide, I had made up McCauley's chart and slanted my query to it. Extremely intelligent, impatient, action-oriented. Like most agents, McCauley's more promoter than reader. He did say reading is a hobby, though. I should have seen from his chart to make the query shorter, with more punch. And maybe my last paragraph should have been first. And maybe the man advised in his listing in Herman's guide that the best way to get an agent was to get recommended. To give you an example, John Eisenhower, author of Mexico and the U.S., is one of Macaulay's clients. I didn't know any Eisenhowers or Roosevelts to recommend me. I had to get around this somehow. I'll let you read my query to him now, then quote his response. Maybe you can understand how he got what he did out of my letter. I'm going to cheat by underlining sentences not highlighted in the original. I didn't begin bold-facing and underlining and leaving blank white space around short mini letters until February 8th. That was after an editor from Pocket Books responded that my work aimed to too narrow an audience. I was pissed, as well as confused. My one-page query to that non-reader editor had stated I was trying to establish a wide and popular audience. I'd merge her letter here too, but it's in quarter moon, and I don't want to be repetitious. So here's the now famous January 28th McCauley query. January 28th, 1994, Gerald McCauley Agency, P.O. Box A, Katona, New York, 10536. Dear Mr. McCauley, Rockvale, a town in the foothills of the Rockies, huddles in a time warp. We made a wonderful change just this winter to a diesel furnace from a coal stove. We do have indoor plumbing, but the septic needs work. 400 residents, including goats and donkeys, nestle against an easy curving sand rock hillside fronting the wet mountain range. In the coal-booming early 1900s, J.D. Rockefeller's and J.C. Penney visited regularly. Living here now, being so antisocial, 400 is 390 too many. I enjoy my husband, the animals, and a few others. I have established no Eisenhower contacts to recommend me to you. I'll rely on writing skill, explaining efficiently what I have to offer and why to you. Noting no popular fiction and studying your titles, Herman's Insider's Guide to Book Editors, Publishers, and Literary Agents, I assume you lean right and prefer Atlas Shrugged, having no patience for the sentimental slush in fiction. Tears before profit, carrying to the edge that drug dealers look like social saints. The satire sextet I offer culminates university and life-level study in psychology, philosophy, physics, and chemistry. In the 60s, psychology doomed and determined all to neurosis or psychosis, the focus on diagnosis, since it offered no healthy cures. Disgusted, I switched to philosophy, where it was questioned whether behavior was determined, or free will, or reality existed. Changing focus from psychology to philosophy freed me from religion, thank God. I shudder that I once believed I should be a nun. Philosophically free as few are, I have written a work crossing fiction into non in a light-hearted, simple style to capture the commercial, writing an esoteric expose to an intellectual elite. It would benefit few and make me no profit. My warning should you decide to review other of this work. It satirizes cultural cults, including those loosely heaved into the ambiguous category, heaven forbid, New Age. Thus, skimmers have inaccurately quick-pegged a work placing Rand and Limbaugh above McCauley as New Age. And be warned, a non-feminist female fighting hormones with work, reason, and humor, and make-believe. Heroine M.J. O'Reilly is a far-fetched takeoff of me, in parentheses, menopause, the pit Dante missed, close parentheses. Next, okay, a few spaces to show that that's the end of the letter. Since I had reached the bottom of the page here, I didn't have room to type a closing, yours or mine, or my name. In this case, I usually scrawl my lonely signature on the bottom of the page. It's repetitious to type my name there anyway, since it's already printed on the top of my imitation letterhead. Now, before quoting McCauley, let me note that he wrote a kind letter specifically to me on his own appealing letterhead with his name on top, boldly imprinted in red and underlined. In my books, this spells courtesy, class, and a concern for self-esteem, yours and other people's. I do appreciate his response and will admit my letter to him may have been a little too long, possibly unclear. And then I go into the letter, March 29, 1994. Dear Mrs. Shelnutt, this is the letter from him. I want to thank you for writing to me about your book, The Satire Sextet. Although I spend most of my time representing nonfiction, I'm afraid that your work is a bit too special and in an area where I have little expertise. I'm afraid that most of the publishers I deal with may find your work a bit too specialized for their lists as well. It seems to me that you may be better served if you find a publisher in this area. In any event, I am sorry that I lack the kind of experience and editorial contacts you may need, but I want to thank you for thinking of me as a literary agent for you and for your work. Sincerely, Gerard F. McCauley. I think I'll pause on that. That really is a beautiful letter, obviously exposing a beautiful soul. And I've definitely met a few of those in this query marathon saga, whatever you want to call it. So you might want to see some more of these. Some of the responses and the types of letters I wrote in the whole situations as they changed, with some triumphs as well as some falls down the attic stairs in a symbolic sense. I think they're well worth reading, and that you'll find that it's really not repetitious. Each detail is specific in a way that it gives some kind of a lesson, and it seems to me. So next time we'll finish my letter to McCauley. And thank you again, sir, for your kindness and courtesy and class. See you later.